The dirt-streaked woman in the torn wedding dress collapsed at the edge of town, her knees hitting the Kansas soil as the sun beat down mercilessly on her back, and not a single soul in Great Bend moved to help her. Benjamin Ashford was mucking out the stables behind the Silver Spur Saloon when he heard the commotion. The ranch hand wiped sweat from his brow with a calloused hand and stepped around the corner to see what had drawn the crowd. A woman knelt in the middle of the dusty street, her once white dress now brown with trail dust and what looked like dried blood. Her dark hair had come loose from its pins and hung in tangles around her shoulders. She was thin, far too thin, and her hands trembled as she tried to push herself upright. "Please," she said, her voice cracking. "I need water. I have been walking for 2 days." The townspeople stood in clusters, whispering behind their hands. Benjamin recognized most of them. Mrs. Henderson from the general store, Doc Willoughby, Sheriff Grant, the banker, Mr. Thornton. Not one of them stepped forward. "That is the Owens bride," Mrs. Henderson said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "The one whose husband left her at the altar 3 towns over in Larned. My cousin wrote to me about it. Said she is cursed. Said 3 men tried to marry her and all 3 died or disappeared." The woman in the street flinched at the words but did not deny them. Benjamin watched her shoulders straighten despite her obvious exhaustion. "Please," she repeated. "I only need a little help. I can work. I can earn my keep." "We do not want your kind here," Sheriff Grant said, his hand resting on his gun belt. "Best you move along before dark." Benjamin had heard enough. He strode forward, his boots kicking up small clouds of dust. The crowd parted for him, some looking relieved that someone else was dealing with the problem, others looking scandalized that he would involve himself. He did not care much what they thought. He had been working odd jobs around Great Bend for the past 6 months, saving money to buy his own piece of land. He kept to himself mostly, but his mama had raised him better than to let a woman suffer in the street. "Miss," he said, stopping a few feet away, "can you stand?" She looked up at him with eyes the color of storm clouds. There was fear in them and pain, but also something else, something that looked like determination. "I think so," she whispered. He extended his hand. She stared at it for a long moment before reaching out and letting him pull her to her feet. She swayed, and he caught her elbow to steady her. "When did you last eat?" he asked. "Yesterday morning. I had some berries I found near a creek." Benjamin looked back at the crowd. "Any of you Christian folks want to explain to me why you are letting a woman starve?" No one met his eyes. Mrs. Henderson sniffed. "She is bad luck, Benjamin Ashford. Mark my words, you will regret helping her." "I will take my chances," he said. He turned back to the woman. "I have a room at the boarding house. It is not much, but there is a washroom downstairs and Mrs. Carver always has stew on the stove. You can get cleaned up and fed." Tears welled in her eyes. "I have no money to pay you back." "Did I ask for money?" She shook her head. "Then come on. You look like you are about to fall over." He kept his hand on her elbow as they walked toward the boarding house, ignoring the stares and whispers that followed them. Mrs. Carver, a widow who had been running the boarding house for 15 years, took one look at the woman and ushered her inside without question. Whatever else anyone said about Mrs. Carver, she had a soft heart for strays and lost souls. "Get her into the washroom," Mrs. Carver said. "I will heat some water and bring her a clean dress. Looks like she is about my daughter's size." Benjamin guided the woman to the washroom and then stepped back out into the hallway. Through the door, he could hear the sound of water pouring and Mrs. Carver's gentle voice. He leaned against the wall and waited. 20 minutes later, the door opened. The woman emerged wearing a simple brown calico dress, her hair still damp but combed and braided. Her face was clean, revealing delicate features and a spattering of freckles across her nose. She looked younger than he had first thought, maybe 22 or 23. His own 26 years had been spent working ranches and saving every penny, but he had never seen anyone look as worn down as she had in that street. "Thank you," she said to Mrs. Carver, who was gathering up the ruined wedding dress. "I do not know how to repay your kindness." "Nonsense," Mrs. Carver said. "You just get some food in you. Benjamin, take her to the kitchen." The kitchen was warm and smelled of bread and stew. Mrs. Carver ladled out a generous portion and set it in front of the woman, along with a thick slice of bread and butter. The woman ate slowly at first, as if she had forgotten how, and then with more urgency. Benjamin sat across from her with his own bowl, eating quietly while Mrs. Carver bustled around them. "I suppose you want to know my story," the woman said when she had finished eating. She set down her spoon and met Benjamin's eyes. "Only if you want to tell it," he said. She took a breath. "My name is Amelia Owens. I am from a small town in Missouri. My father was a farmer, but he died when I was 17. My mother had already passed when I was a child. I had no brothers or sisters, so I was alone. A man came to town, a merchant, and he asked to marry me. I thought I was lucky. I thought I would have a home again." She paused, her fingers twisting together in her lap. "He died the day before our wedding. They said it was his heart. Then another man courted me, a banker. He seemed kind, but he disappeared one night and they found him 3 days later in the river. They said he had been drinking and fell in. Then a third man, a rancher named Thomas. We were supposed to marry last week in Larned. He was at the altar waiting for me when his horse broke free from where it was tied outside the church. It ran into the street and caused a wagon to overturn. Thomas ran out to help and the wagon crushed him." Benjamin watched her face as she spoke. There was grief there, but no guilt, just a deep, weary sadness. "People started saying I was cursed," she continued. "They said I brought death to any man who tried to marry me. After Thomas died, his family ran me out of Larned. They gave me an hour to leave town. I have been walking ever since, trying to find somewhere that would take me in. Every town I passed through, someone had heard the stories. No one would help me." "That is a lot of bad luck," Benjamin said carefully. "You think I am cursed?" she asked. Her chin lifted, and there was a challenge in her eyes. "I think luck is what you make of it," he said. "And I think those men dying had nothing to do with you. People die all the time. Horses spook. Men have bad hearts. It is not your fault." She stared at him as if he had said something in a foreign language. "You truly believe that?" "I do." "Then you are the first person in 3 towns who does." She leaned forward, and he saw the determination he had glimpsed in the street. "I will prove I am worth it," she whispered. "I will show everyone that I am not bad luck. I can work hard. I can be useful. Just give me a chance." Benjamin felt something shift in his chest. There was something about this woman, something beyond the tragedy she had endured. She had been broken down and cast out, but she had not given up. That took a kind of strength he respected. "All right," he said. "You can stay here at the boarding house. I will talk to Mrs. Carver about you working for your room and board, and I will ask around about jobs in town. Someone must need help." "Why are you doing this?" Amelia asked. "You do not know me." "Maybe that is exactly why," he said. "I do not know you, so I have no reason to believe the gossip. I would rather judge you by what I see, and what I see is someone who needs help." Tears spilled down her cheeks. She wiped them away quickly. "Thank you, Benjamin Ashford. I will not forget this." Over the next few days, Benjamin kept his word. He spoke to Mrs. Carver, who agreed to let Amelia work in exchange for a small room and meals. Amelia threw herself into the work with a determination that impressed everyone at the boarding house. She cooked, cleaned, did laundry, and mended clothes. She was up before dawn and did not stop until well after dark. Benjamin found himself looking for excuses to be around the boarding house more often. He would stop by for lunch when he could, or come by in the evening after finishing his work at the various ranches and businesses around town. He told himself he was just checking on Amelia, making sure she was settling in all right, but the truth was more complicated than that. He liked talking to her. She was smart and had a dry sense of humor that caught him off guard. She had read more books than he had, her father having kept a small library before he died. She told him about the stories she loved, and he told her about the ranch he wanted to buy, a small spread about 5 miles outside of town that had good water and grazing land. "How much do you need to save?" she asked one evening. They were sitting on the back porch of the boarding house, watching the sun set over the prairie. It was early June of 1878, and the evening air was finally cooling down after a scorching day. "About $500 more," he said. "The owner is asking $2,000, and I have saved $1,500 over the past 4 years. If I keep working steady, I should have enough by the end of summer." "That is a lot of money," she said. "It is a lot of years of hard work," he agreed. "But it will be worth it to have something that is mine, to build something lasting." She was quiet for a moment. "That must be a good feeling, having a dream like that, knowing where you are headed." "You do not have dreams?" he asked. "I used to," she said softly. "I used to dream about having a home again, a family. But now I do not let myself think that far ahead. I just try to make it through each day." Benjamin wanted to tell her that she could dream again, that she deserved more than just surviving, but he held his tongue. It was too soon. She was still healing from everything that had happened to her. The town slowly began to accept Amelia's presence, though the whispers never fully stopped. Mrs. Henderson still crossed the street when she saw Amelia coming. A few other townsfolk made a point of avoiding her, but Mrs. Carver spoke well of her work, and that carried weight. Doc Willoughby's wife hired Amelia to help with their spring cleaning and reported that the girl was thorough and polite. Slowly, bit by bit, Amelia began to build a new life in Great Bend. Benjamin found that he thought about her more than he should. He noticed the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating, the way she hummed softly to herself when she thought no one was listening, the way her whole face lit up when she smiled, which was becoming more frequent as the weeks passed. One Saturday in early July, Benjamin took a break from his work at the Michaels Ranch to ride into town for supplies. He found Amelia at the general store, carefully counting out coins from a small purse to pay for thread and needles. "Mrs. Carver is teaching me to make quilts," she explained when she saw him. "She says we can sell them at the church bazaar in August." "That is good," he said. "You are settling in." "Thanks to you," she said. They walked out of the store together and Benjamin fell into step beside her. "Benjamin, I have been meaning to talk to you. I want to start paying you back for what you did for me." "There is nothing to pay back," he said immediately. "Yes, there is," she insisted. "You saved my life. If you had not helped me that day, I do not know what would have happened to me. Please let me do something." He stopped walking and turned to face her. The street was busy with Saturday shoppers, but he barely noticed them. "Amelia, you do not owe me anything. I helped you because it was the right thing to do." "I know," she said. "But I want to do this. Please. Let me help you save for your ranch. I can give you a little money each week from what I earn. It is not much, but every bit helps, right?" He could see how important this was to her. He understood it. She needed to feel like she was not a burden, like she was contributing. "All right," he said, "but only if you promise to save some for yourself too. You should have your own money." "I will," she said, and the relief in her voice made his chest tighten. They continued walking, and Benjamin realized they were holding the attention of several townspeople. Let them stare, he thought. He was proud to walk beside Amelia. She had proven herself in the months since she had arrived. She worked harder than anyone he knew, and she never complained. That evening, there was a dance at the church hall to celebrate Independence Day. Benjamin had not planned to go, but Mrs. Carver mentioned it at supper, and Amelia's eyes had lit up with interest before she quickly looked down at her plate. He found himself asking if she would like to attend. "With you?" she asked, her voice careful. "If you want," he said. "Or we can just both happen to be there at the same time." A smile tugged at her lips. "I would like to go with you." The church hall was decorated with bunting and lanterns. A small group of musicians played fiddle and guitar while couples spun around the dance floor. Benjamin was not much of a dancer, but he knew the basic steps. He led Amelia out onto the floor and tried not to step on her feet. She laughed when he apologized for the third time. "You are doing fine," she said. "Better than me. I have not danced since before my father died." "Then we are a matched pair," he said. They danced 3 songs before taking a break to get some punch. As they stood at the refreshment table, Benjamin noticed Sheriff Grant watching them from across the room. The sheriff did not look pleased. "Do not worry about him," Amelia said, following his gaze. "He does not like me, I know that. But I do not care anymore. Let him think what he wants." "You have gotten stronger," Benjamin observed. "I had to," she said simply. "I could not stay broken forever, and you helped me see that I did not have to be." Something passed between them in that moment, something unspoken but powerful. Benjamin felt his pulse quicken. He set down his cup and held out his hand. "Dance with me again, always," she said. As the summer progressed, Benjamin and Amelia became inseparable. He would finish his work and head straight to the boarding house, where they would sit on the back porch and talk until the stars came out. She told him about the books she had read, about her childhood, about her dreams of seeing the ocean someday. He told her about his family back in Texas, about the brother he had lost to fever when they were boys, about the day he had decided to strike out on his own to make his fortune. "You miss them?" she asked one night. "Your family?" "Every day," he admitted. "But I write to my mama regular and she writes back. She understands why I had to leave. There was not enough land for all of us and I wanted to build something of my own." "She must be proud of you," Amelia said. "I hope so." He looked at her in the moonlight. "What about you? Do you have any family left?" "An aunt in St. Louis, but we have not spoken in years. She did not approve of my father's choices. Said he should have sold the farm when my mother died and moved to the city where he could make proper money. They had a falling out, and I never heard from her again." "I am sorry," Benjamin said. "It is all right," she said. "I have learned that family is not always about blood. Mrs. Carver has been more of a mother to me in these past months than anyone since my own mother died, and you have been such a good friend." Friend. The word should have pleased him, but instead it felt insufficient. He wanted to be more than her friend. He had been fighting the feeling for weeks, telling himself it was too soon, that she had been through too much, that he should give her time. But sitting there in the moonlight with her face turned up to his, he could not deny it anymore. He was falling in love with Amelia Owens. The realization should have scared him. He had never been in love before. He had courted a girl or two back in Texas, but nothing serious. He had been too focused on saving money and building his future. But Amelia had changed everything. She made him want things he had not let himself want before. A partner, a companion, someone to build that future with, but he held his tongue. She had been rejected and cast out. She had been called cursed. The last thing she needed was for him to rush her into something she might not be ready for. So he waited, even though waiting felt like the hardest thing he had ever done. In mid-August, the church bazaar arrived. Amelia had spent weeks working on quilts with Mrs. Carver, and they had 3 beautiful pieces to sell. Benjamin helped them set up their booth early in the morning, then spent the day working odd jobs around the fairgrounds. He repaired a broken wheel on the lemonade stand and helped the reverend hang the prize ribbons for the livestock competition. By mid-afternoon, he made his way back to the quilt booth. Amelia was beaming. "We sold all 3, she said, "and we got good prices for them too. Mrs. Carver says we should make more for the fall festival." "That is wonderful," Benjamin said. "I am proud of you." She ducked her head, but he could see the pleasure in her face. "Thank you. I have been thinking, with the money I have saved, I have almost enough to pay you back in full for everything you spent on me those first few days." "Amelia, I told you, you do not need to do that." "I know," she said. "But I want to. I want to be able to stand on my own 2 feet, to know that I can take care of myself." He understood that. He respected it. "All right," he said, "but only if you keep saving after that. Promise me." "I promise," she said. That evening there was another dance. This time, Benjamin did not hesitate to ask Amelia to accompany him. They danced until their feet ached, laughing and spinning under the lanterns. He held her closer than was strictly proper, and she did not pull away. When the music slowed, he found himself looking down into her face at the way the lamplight caught in her eyes. "Amelia," he said softly, "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" she asked. "I think I am falling in love with you." She went very still. For a moment he thought he had made a terrible mistake. Then tears filled her eyes. "You cannot," she whispered. "Benjamin, you know what people say about me. What if they are right? What if something happens to you?" "Nothing is going to happen to me," he said firmly. "And even if something did, it would not be because of you. Amelia, you are the strongest, bravest person I have ever met. You survived things that would have broken most people. You picked yourself up and kept going. I do not believe in curses, but I believe in you." "I am afraid," she admitted. "I am afraid of losing you. I could not bear it if something happened to you because of me." "Look at me," he said, tilting her chin up with his finger. "I am here. I am fine, and I am choosing this. I am choosing you if you will have me." She searched his face for a long moment. Then slowly she smiled. "I am falling in love with you too," she said. "I have been trying not to, but I cannot help it. You make me feel safe. You make me feel like I can dream again." He kissed her then, right there on the dance floor with half the town watching. He did not care who saw or what they said. He loved her and he wanted everyone to know it. The kiss was gentle and sweet, and when they pulled apart, Amelia was laughing and crying at the same time. "Everyone is staring at us," she said. "Let them stare," he said. But not everyone was happy about this development. The next morning, Sheriff Grant showed up at the boarding house while Benjamin was having breakfast with Amelia. He stood in the doorway with his arms crossed, looking stern. "Benjamin, can I have a word?" he asked. Benjamin excused himself and followed the sheriff outside. "What can I do for you, Sheriff?" "I am going to speak plain," Grant said. "You are making a mistake with that girl. She is bad news. 3 men have died because of her, and I do not want to see a 4th. With all due respect, Sheriff, those men did not die because of her. They died because of accidents and bad luck. Amelia had nothing to do with it." "You do not know that," Grant said. "People are talking. They are worried about what might happen if you keep courting her. Some folks are saying maybe she should move on to another town." Benjamin felt anger flare in his chest. "She has done nothing wrong. She works hard, pays her own way, and minds her own business. She has every right to be here." "I am just warning you," Grant said. "As a friend, be careful. That is all I am saying." Benjamin watched the sheriff walk away, his jaw tight. He knew Grant meant well, but the warning only strengthened his resolve. He was not going to let superstition and gossip dictate his life. He loved Amelia, and he was going to stand by her no matter what anyone said. When he went back inside, Amelia was waiting in the hallway. "I heard," she said. "Benjamin, maybe he is right. Maybe I should leave. I do not want to cause trouble for you." "You are not causing trouble," he said. "And you are not leaving. We are going to face this together." Over the next few weeks, Benjamin made a point of being seen with Amelia around town. They walked together to church on Sunday. They had lunch at the cafe. They shopped for supplies together at the general store. Some people greeted them warmly. Others turned away or whispered behind their hands. Benjamin ignored the negative reactions and focused on the positive ones. Doc Willoughby's wife, Martha, became one of Amelia's strongest supporters. She hired Amelia to help with sewing projects and introduced her to the other ladies in the church sewing circle. Slowly, more people began to accept Amelia as part of the community. By late September, Benjamin had saved enough money to make an offer on the ranch he wanted. The owner, an elderly man named Mr. Patterson, agreed to sell for $1,800, $100 less than his original asking price. Benjamin signed the papers with shaking hands, barely able to believe that he finally owned land. "I want to show you," he told Amelia that evening. "Will you come out to the ranch with me tomorrow?" "I would love to," she said. The next morning they rode out together in a wagon Benjamin had borrowed from the livery. The ranch was a 40-minute ride from town, set in a valley with a creek running through it. The house was small but solid, built of wood and stone. The barn needed some repairs, but the structure was sound. There were 100 acres of grazing land and a small orchard of apple trees. "It is perfect," Amelia breathed, looking around. "Benjamin, this is wonderful." "It needs work," he said. "The roof has some leaks and the fences need mending, but it has good bones. I can build it up into something really special." They walked around the property together, and Benjamin pointed out where he wanted to make improvements. He would fix the barn first, then work on the house. He wanted to get some cattle, maybe some chickens. Eventually, he would like to have horses too. "It sounds like a lot of work," Amelia said. "It will be," he agreed, "but it will be worth it." They stopped by the creek and Benjamin turned to face her. He had been thinking about this moment for weeks, planning what he would say. Now that it was here, his carefully rehearsed words fled from his mind. "Amelia," he said, "I know we have not been courting for very long. And I know you have been through a lot. But I cannot imagine doing this without you. I cannot imagine building this ranch, building this life, without you by my side." He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a simple gold band with a small ruby set in it. "This was my grandmother's ring. My mama sent it to me when I wrote to her about you. She said she would be honored if you wore it." Amelia's eyes went wide. "Benjamin, are you asking me to marry you?" "I am," he said. "I love you, Amelia. I want to spend the rest of my life with you." "Will you marry me?" For a moment she did not speak. Then she closed her eyes and took a shaking breath. When she opened them again, tears were streaming down her face. "I want to say yes," she whispered, "but I am so afraid. What if something happens to you? What if the curse is real?" "There is no curse," he said firmly. He took both of her hands in his. "Amelia, look at me. I have been around you for months now. I am fine. Nothing bad has happened. The only thing that has happened is that I have fallen completely in love with you." "But the other men," she said. "Had nothing to do with you," he insisted. "Amelia, do you love me?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. "I love you so much it scares me." "Then marry me, be my wife. Help me build this ranch into a home. We will face whatever comes together." She looked down at the ring, then back up at him. He could see the war raging inside her, fear battling against hope. Finally, hope won. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I will marry you." He slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her, pouring all of his love and certainty into that kiss. When they pulled apart, she was smiling through her tears. "I will prove I am worth it," she said again, the same words she had spoken that first day. "I will be the best wife you could ask for." "You already are," he said. They rode back to town that afternoon and shared their news with Mrs. Carver, who cried and hugged them both. Word spread quickly through Great Bend. Most people offered congratulations, though Benjamin noticed that some still looked concerned. They planned a simple wedding for early October. Amelia wanted to wait until the fall harvest was done, and Benjamin had managed to make the most urgent repairs to the ranch house. Mrs. Carver helped Amelia sew a wedding dress, a simple but elegant gown of cream-colored silk. Benjamin bought a new suit and polished his boots until they shined. The night before the wedding, Benjamin lay awake in his room at the boarding house, listening to the wind outside his window. He thought about everything that had happened since that day in June when Amelia had collapsed in the street. He thought about how she had changed his life, how she had given him something to build toward beyond just the ranch. She had given him a future filled with love and partnership. He was not a superstitious man, but he said a prayer that night. He prayed that they would have a long life together, that they would fill their ranch with children and laughter, that they would grow old side by side. He prayed that nothing would come between them. The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful. October in Kansas was unpredictable, but this day was perfect, with blue skies and a gentle breeze. Benjamin arrived at the church early, his hands shaking as he adjusted his tie. His best man was Jeremiah Cooper, a fellow ranch hand he had worked with for years. Jeremiah clapped him on the shoulder and grinned. "Nervous?" Jeremiah asked. "Terrified," Benjamin admitted, "but in a good way." The church filled with people. Mrs. Carver was there in the front row, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. Doc Willoughby and his wife Martha sat beside her. The Reverend stood at the altar, his Bible open and ready. Even some of the people who had been skeptical about Amelia had come to witness the wedding. Then the music started, and Amelia appeared at the back of the church. Benjamin's breath caught. She was beautiful, radiant in her cream dress with her dark hair pinned up and a simple crown of fall flowers on her head. She walked down the aisle alone, her head held high, and Benjamin felt a surge of pride and love so strong it nearly knocked him over. She reached the altar and took his hands. Her fingers were cold and he could feel them trembling. He squeezed gently, trying to give her strength. The Reverend began the ceremony. Benjamin barely heard the words. He was too focused on Amelia's face, on the way her eyes never left his, on the small smile playing at her lips. When it came time for the vows, his voice was strong and clear. "I, Benjamin Ashford, take you, Amelia Owens, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, until death do us part." Amelia's voice shook slightly as she repeated the same vows, but she got through them. Then the Reverend pronounced them husband and wife, and Benjamin kissed his bride to the sound of applause from the assembled guests. The celebration afterward was held at the church hall. Mrs. Carver had organized a feast, and the whole town seemed to turn out. There was music and dancing, and Benjamin held Amelia close as they spun around the floor for their first dance as a married couple. "We did it," she whispered against his chest. "We are married, and nothing bad happened." "I told you," he said. "There is no curse. There is just us and our future together." As the sun began to set, they climbed into the wagon that would take them to their ranch. Tin cans had been tied to the back, clattering loudly as they rode away from town. Amelia waved goodbye to Mrs. Carver and the others who had gathered to see them off, then settled against Benjamin's side. "I am so happy," she said. "I never thought I could be this happy again." "This is just the beginning," Benjamin promised. The ranch house was small, but Benjamin had worked hard to make it comfortable. He had fixed the leaks in the roof, patched the walls, and built a sturdy bed frame. There was a table and 2 chairs, a stove and a rocking chair by the fireplace. It was not much, but it was theirs. He carried Amelia over the threshold and she laughed, the sound filling the small space with joy. He set her down gently and lit the lanterns, bathing the room in warm light. "Welcome home, Mrs. Ashford," he said. She smiled up at him. "I like the sound of that." They spent their wedding night wrapped in each other's arms, talking and laughing and making plans for their future. When Benjamin finally drifted off to sleep, he did so with a smile on his face and his wife safe beside him. The next morning, they woke to sunshine streaming through the window. Benjamin made coffee while Amelia started breakfast, and they ate together at their little table. It was such a simple, domestic scene, but it filled Benjamin with contentment. "What should we do first?" Amelia asked. "I need to finish mending the fences," Benjamin said, "and I want to ride into town later to talk to Mr. Patterson about buying some cattle. What about you?" "I thought I would work on the garden," she said. "Mrs. Carver gave me some seed packets and some cuttings from her herb garden. If I plant them now, we might get one more harvest before the first frost." They spent the day working side by side, and it set the pattern for the weeks that followed. Benjamin worked on the ranch while Amelia tended the house and garden. In the evenings, they would sit by the fire and talk about their day. Sometimes, Amelia would read aloud from one of the books she had borrowed from Doc Willoughby's library. Sometimes Benjamin would play his harmonica while she sang softly along. They went to town every Saturday for supplies and to attend church on Sunday. Slowly, the last of the skeptics began to accept that Amelia was not cursed. Benjamin was healthy and happy, the ranch was prospering, and nothing bad had happened. Mrs. Henderson even apologized to Amelia one Sunday after church, admitting that she had been wrong to judge her so harshly. "I am sorry for the things I said," Mrs. Henderson said, her face red. "You are a good woman, and Benjamin is lucky to have you." "Thank you," Amelia said graciously. "I understand why people were afraid. I was afraid too, but I am learning that fear does not have to control you." By November, Benjamin had purchased 6 head of cattle and built a proper pen for them. Amelia had preserved vegetables and fruits from the garden, filling the shelves in the root cellar with jars of pickles, tomatoes, and apple sauce. They had chickens now too, and fresh eggs every morning. One cold evening in late November, as they sat by the fire, Amelia took Benjamin's hand and placed it on her stomach. "I have something to tell you," she said, her eyes shining. "I am going to have a baby." Benjamin stared at her, not quite comprehending. Then the words sank in and a grin spread across his face. "A baby, are you sure?" "I am sure," she said. "Doc Willoughby confirmed it yesterday when we were in town. The baby should come in June." He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "A baby," he repeated, wonder in his voice. "We are going to have a baby." "Are you happy?" she asked. "Happy? Amelia, I am beyond happy. This is the best news you could have given me." That night, as they lay in bed, Benjamin placed his hand on Amelia's still flat stomach and imagined the life growing inside her, a son or daughter. A child who would grow up on this ranch, who would learn to ride horses and tend cattle and plant gardens. A child who would be surrounded by love. "I used to be so afraid," Amelia whispered in the darkness. "Afraid that I would never have this. A home, a husband, a family. But you gave me all of it, Benjamin. You gave me everything. You gave me just as much," he said. "You gave me a reason to build something more than just a ranch. You gave me a future worth fighting for." The winter passed slowly but peacefully. Benjamin worked on improving the barn and building furniture for the baby's room. Amelia knitted tiny clothes and blankets, her face glowing with happiness as her belly grew. They spent long evenings talking about names and making plans. "If it is a boy, I would like to name him after your brother," Amelia said one night in January. "The one you lost. What was his name?" "Daniel," Benjamin said, his throat tight. "Daniel Ashford. He was only 8 when he died." "Then Daniel it is if we have a boy," Amelia said. "And if we have a girl, I would like to name her Grace after my mother." "Those are good names," Benjamin said. "Strong names." In February, a harsh blizzard hit Kansas. The snow piled up so high that Benjamin could barely open the front door. He spent 2 days digging paths to the barn and the chicken coop, making sure the animals had food and water. Amelia kept the fire burning and made thick stews to keep them warm. On the 3rd day, the snow finally stopped. Benjamin trudged out to check on the cattle and found that they had weathered the storm well, huddled together in the shelter he had built for them. When he returned to the house, stamping snow off his boots, Amelia had hot coffee waiting for him. "All well?" she asked. "All well," he confirmed. "The cattle are fine, the chickens are fine, and we have enough firewood and food to last another week if we need it. We make a good team," she said, smiling. "The best team," he agreed. Spring came slowly, melting the snow and revealing the brown prairie grass beneath. As the weather warmed, Benjamin plowed a larger garden plot and Amelia planted seeds. She was 6 months pregnant now, moving more slowly but still insisting on doing her share of the work. Benjamin tried to get her to rest more, but she was stubborn. "I am pregnant, not an invalid," she said when he suggested she take a nap instead of weeding the garden. "Women have been having babies for thousands of years. I will be fine." He worried anyway, but he tried not to let it show. He watched her carefully for any signs of trouble, but she seemed healthy and strong. Doc Willoughby checked on her once a month and reported that everything was progressing normally. In May, they celebrated their first wedding anniversary with a quiet dinner at home. Benjamin had bought Amelia a new dress from the catalog, deep green with lace at the collar. She had made him a new shirt, carefully stitching his initials onto the cuff. They ate roast chicken and fresh bread, and for dessert, Amelia had baked a cake using precious sugar she had been saving. "This past year has been the best year of my life," Benjamin said, raising his glass of cider. "To my beautiful wife and to many more years together." "To us," Amelia said, clinking her glass against his, "and to our growing family." 3 weeks later, on a warm June morning, Amelia woke Benjamin before dawn. "It is time," she said, her face calm but her eyes showing a flicker of fear. "The baby is coming." Benjamin jumped out of bed, his heart racing. He helped Amelia dress and settle into the rocking chair, then rode as fast as he could to town to fetch Doc Willoughby. The doctor followed him back to the ranch, his bag in hand and Mrs. Willoughby accompanying him to help with the birth. Benjamin was banished to the barn while the women worked. He paced back and forth, listening to the sounds coming from the house. Hours passed. The sun rose higher in the sky. He tried to distract himself by working, but he could not focus on anything but what was happening inside. Finally, just after noon, Mrs. Willoughby appeared in the barn doorway. "You can come in now," she said, smiling. "You have a son." Benjamin ran to the house, his legs shaking. He burst through the door to find Amelia sitting up in bed, looking exhausted but radiant. In her arms was a tiny bundle wrapped in a blue blanket. Doc Willoughby was packing up his bag, looking satisfied. "Come meet your son," Amelia said softly. Benjamin approached the bed slowly, almost afraid to breathe. Amelia pulled back the blanket and he saw a tiny red face, eyes squeezed shut, a shock of dark hair on top of his head. The baby made a small sound and Benjamin felt his heart expand in his chest. "He is perfect," Benjamin whispered. "Amelia, He is absolutely perfect. Daniel Ashford, she said. Welcome to the world, little one. Benjamin sat on the edge of the bed and carefully took his son in his arms. The baby weighed almost nothing, but the responsibility of holding him felt enormous. This was his son, his child, a life that he and Amelia had created together. "Hello, Daniel," he said. "I am your papa, and I promise I am going to do everything I can to give you a good life." The baby opened his eyes, dark blue like all newborns, and seemed to look right at Benjamin. Then he yawned and snuggled closer to his father's chest. Benjamin felt tears prick his eyes. Doc Willoughby cleared his throat. "Mother and baby are both healthy," he said, "but Amelia needs rest. Lots of rest. And you need to make sure she eats well and drinks plenty of water. I will come back in a week to check on them both." "Thank you, Doc," Benjamin said. "Thank you so much." After the doctor and Mrs. Willoughby left, Benjamin sat with Amelia and Daniel for hours, just watching them. Amelia dozed off eventually, worn out from the labor. Benjamin held his son and thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. A little more than a year ago, Amelia had been alone and desperate, rejected by everyone. Now she was his wife, the mother of his child, and the center of his world. The summer passed in a blur of sleepless nights and tiny milestones. Daniel's first smile, his first time sleeping through the night, the way he would grasp Benjamin's finger in his tiny fist and hold on tight. Amelia was a natural mother, patient and loving, and Benjamin fell even more in love with her watching her care for their son. In August, they took Daniel to town for the first time for the church bazaar. Everyone wanted to meet the baby, and Amelia glowed with pride as she showed him off. Mrs. Carver held him and cried. Mrs. Henderson gave Amelia a hand-knitted blanket. Even Sheriff Grant stopped by to offer his congratulations. "I am glad I was wrong," the sheriff said quietly to Benjamin. "That wife of yours is good people, and you have got yourself a fine son there." "Thank you, Sheriff," Benjamin said. "That means a lot." As the days grew shorter and autumn approached, Benjamin reflected on how much his life had changed. He had a wife he loved deeply, a healthy son, and a ranch that was slowly but surely becoming profitable. They had chickens, cattle, a good harvest from the garden, and enough money saved to buy more livestock in the spring. But more than that, he had happiness. He had a home filled with love and laughter. He had a partner who worked beside him and supported him. He had a future that stretched out bright and full of promise. One evening in September, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset with Daniel asleep in Amelia's arms, she turned to Benjamin with tears in her eyes. "What is wrong?" he asked, immediately concerned. "Nothing is wrong," she said. "I am just so grateful. A year and a half ago, I thought my life was over. I thought I would never be happy again. But you saved me, Benjamin. You gave me a reason to keep going. You gave me love and hope and this beautiful life." "You saved me too," he said. "I was just going through the motions before I met you. Working and saving but not really living. You showed me what it means to have something worth working for, someone worth building a life with. I told you I would prove I was worth it," she said. "I hope I have." He reached over and cupped her face in his hand. "Amelia, you have proven that every single day since I met you. You are worth everything. You are my whole world." They kissed as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Daniel stirred in Amelia's arms but did not wake. In the distance, they could hear the lowing of the cattle and the soft clucking of the chickens settling in for the night. Life on the ranch continued with its rhythms and routines. Winter came again, then spring, then summer. Daniel grew from a baby into a toddler, learning to walk and talk. He followed Benjamin everywhere, wanting to help with every task. He collected eggs from the chickens, scattering more than he gathered. He tried to feed the cattle, throwing hay with his tiny hands. Benjamin's heart swelled with pride every time he looked at his son. When Daniel was 2, Amelia told Benjamin she was pregnant again. This time, Benjamin did not worry as much. He had seen how strong she was, how capable. In the spring of 1881, Amelia gave birth to a daughter. They named her Grace, after Amelia's mother, just as they had planned. Grace had Amelia's eyes and Benjamin's dimples. She was a quiet baby, content to watch the world around her with solemn curiosity. Daniel was fascinated by his little sister, always wanting to hold her and show her his toys. "Gentle," Amelia would remind him. "She is very small." "I am being gentle, Mama," Daniel would say, his face serious as he patted Grace's hand. The ranch continued to grow. Benjamin bought more cattle and built a bigger barn. He hired a young ranch hand named Peter to help with the work. Amelia tended the garden and the children, and in the evenings she would work on quilts to sell in town. They were making a good living, not rich but comfortable, with enough to meet their needs and a little left over to save. In the summer of 1882, Benjamin's mother came to visit from Texas. She was a small, sturdy woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She fell in love with Amelia immediately, and Amelia returned the affection. For 2 weeks, the house was filled with laughter and stories. Benjamin's mother taught Amelia how to make the biscuits that Benjamin loved. She played with Daniel and Grace for hours, telling them tales of when their father was a boy. "You have done well for yourself," she told Benjamin one evening as they sat on the porch. "Your father would be proud of you. I am proud of you." "Thank you, Mama," Benjamin said. "I owe a lot of it to Amelia. She made this ranch a home." "She is special, that one," his mother agreed. "Hold on to her tight." "I plan to," Benjamin said. After his mother left to return to Texas, life settled back into its familiar patterns. Daniel started helping more around the ranch, old enough now to really be useful. He learned to milk the cow and gather eggs without breaking them. He learned to recognize the different plants in the garden and to pull weeds. Benjamin taught him to ride, putting him on the gentlest horse and leading him around the corral. Grace grew too, a happy child who loved to sing and play with her rag dolls. She helped Amelia in the kitchen, standing on a stool to knead bread dough. She picked flowers and wove them into crowns for herself and her mother. The house was always full of noise and activity, and Benjamin loved it. The years passed, each one bringing new challenges and new joys. There were hard winters and dry summers. There were seasons when the cattle brought good prices and seasons when they struggled. But through it all, Benjamin and Amelia faced everything together, their love growing deeper with each passing year. In 1884, when Daniel was 6 and Grace was 3, Amelia gave birth to another son. They named him Thomas, after the man whose death had sent Amelia running to Great Bend all those years ago. It was Amelia's idea, a way of honoring the past without letting it define her. "He was a good man," she said. "He deserves to be remembered." Thomas was a wild child from the start, always getting into mischief and making his parents laugh. Where Daniel was serious and Grace was gentle, Thomas was all energy and chaos. He kept them on their toes, but he also filled their lives with laughter. By 1886, the ranch had become one of the most successful in the area. Benjamin had 100 head of cattle, a dozen horses, and chickens beyond counting. He had built a bigger house, one with 4 bedrooms and a proper parlor. Amelia had a real kitchen with a fancy stove and running water from a pump inside. It was more than they had ever dreamed of having. One evening that fall, Benjamin and Amelia sat on their porch watching the children play in the yard. Daniel, now 8, was teaching Thomas to throw a rope. Grace was singing to her dolls under the apple tree. The sun was setting, painting everything in golden light. "Do you remember that first day?" Amelia asked. "When I fell in the street and you helped me up?" "I remember," Benjamin said. "I remember thinking you were the bravest person I had ever seen. You had been through so much, but you had not given up." "I almost did give up," she admitted. "If you had not helped me that day, I do not know what would have happened. I was so tired, Benjamin, so tired of fighting and running. But you gave me a reason to keep going." "You gave me a reason too," he said. "Before I met you, I had goals but no real purpose. I wanted land and cattle, but I did not know why. You showed me what I was really working toward: a family, a home, love." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I am so glad I found you, or that you found me. However it happened, I am grateful for every day we have had together." "Me too," he said, wrapping his arm around her. "Me too." They sat in comfortable silence, watching their children and listening to the sounds of the ranch settling down for the night. Benjamin thought about the journey that had brought them here. The fear and the doubt, the hard work and the sacrifice. The love that had grown between them, strong and steady as the prairie grass. Amelia had whispered that she would prove she was worth it, and she had proven it every single day. But the truth was, he had never doubted her worth. From the moment he had taken her hand in that dusty street, he had known she was special. He had known she was worth fighting for, and she had been. She had been worth everything. The children ran up to the porch, breathless and laughing. "Papa, can you tell us a story?" Daniel asked. "Please, Papa," Grace added, her eyes wide. "Story, story," Thomas chanted, bouncing on his toes. Benjamin looked at Amelia and she smiled. "Go ahead," she said. "I will make some hot cocoa." They all went inside, the children tumbling over each other in their excitement. Benjamin settled into his chair by the fireplace, and the children arranged themselves at his feet. Amelia brought out mugs of cocoa and distributed them before sitting down in her rocking chair with her knitting. "What story do you want to hear?" Benjamin asked. "Tell us how you and Mama met," Daniel said. "That is my favorite." "Mine too," Grace said. "Okay," Benjamin said, "but you have all heard it before." "That does not matter," Daniel said. "It is still the best story." So Benjamin told them about the day he had met their mother. He told them about how brave she had been, how strong. He told them about falling in love and building the ranch together. He left out the darker parts, the rejection and the gossip, but he told them the important things. He told them about love and courage and never giving up. The children listened with rapt attention, even though they had heard the story dozens of times before. When Benjamin finished, Thomas climbed into his lap. "You and Mama are going to be together forever, right, Papa?" the little boy asked. "That is the plan," Benjamin said, ruffling his son's hair. "Forever and ever." "Good," Thomas said, satisfied. Later, after the children were in bed, Benjamin and Amelia sat together by the fire. Amelia had her head on Benjamin's chest, and he played with her hair, still dark but now shot through with a few strands of silver. "We have built a good life," Amelia said. "Better than I ever dreamed possible." "We are not done yet," Benjamin said. "We still have a lot of years ahead of us." "A lot more memories to make, I know," she said. "And I cannot wait to make every single one of them with you." He kissed the top of her head. "I love you, Amelia Ashford, more today than yesterday and less than tomorrow." "I love you too," she said. "Thank you for seeing past the fear and the rumors. Thank you for believing in me when no one else would." "You made it easy," he said. "You were worth believing in." They sat there for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the fire burn down to embers. Outside, the wind whispered through the prairie grass and the cattle lowed softly in their pens. The ranch was quiet and peaceful, a testament to everything they had built together. The years continued to unfold, each one bringing its own joys and challenges. The children grew. And eventually, Daniel went off to school in Kansas City to study agriculture. He came back with new ideas for improving the ranch, and Benjamin welcomed his input. Grace grew into a beautiful young woman who helped her mother run the household and showed a talent for training horses. Thomas, wild as ever, decided he wanted to be a lawman and eventually became a deputy in Great Bend. Benjamin and Amelia grew older together, their hair turning gray, their faces lining with the marks of laughter and hard work. But their love never diminished. If anything, it grew stronger, deepened by years of partnership and shared experience. In 1895, on their 24th wedding anniversary, Benjamin took Amelia back to the spot where he had proposed all those years ago. The ranch had changed so much. The house was bigger, the barn was new, and there were more buildings scattered across the property. But the creek was the same, burbling along just as it always had. "Remember standing here?" Benjamin asked. "When I asked you to marry me?" "I remember being terrified," Amelia said. "I wanted to say yes so badly, but I was so afraid." "I am glad you said yes anyway," Benjamin said. "Me too," she said. She looked up at him, her gray eyes still as beautiful as they had been when she was young. "You know what I realized? I spent so long thinking I was cursed, thinking I brought bad luck to everyone around me. But the truth was, I was just unlucky. Terrible things happened, but they were not my fault. It took me a long time to understand that." "You understand it now, though," Benjamin said. "I do," she agreed. "And I understand something else, too. Meeting you was the luckiest thing that ever happened to me. You changed my life, Benjamin. You gave me everything I had lost and things I never even knew I wanted." "You did the same for me," he said. "You made me whole. You made me happy. You made me a better man." They kissed there by the creek, two people who had weathered every storm together and come out stronger for it. When they walked back to the house hand in hand, their children and grandchildren were waiting. Daniel had come home for the anniversary with his wife and two sons. Grace was there with her husband and daughter. Thomas had brought his new fiancée to meet the family. The house was full of noise and laughter. 3 generations gathered under one roof. They had a feast that night, with all of Amelia's best dishes and a cake that Grace had baked. After dinner, they all sat on the porch, the children running around the yard just as Daniel, Grace, and Thomas had done years before. "Tell us how you met Grandma," one of Daniel's sons asked Benjamin. "Please, Grandpa," another child added. So Benjamin told the story one more time, with Amelia adding her own details. They told the children about courage and kindness, about love that overcomes fear, about building something lasting together. The children listened with wide eyes, and when the story was finished, they clapped. "That is the best story ever," Daniel's youngest son said. "It is a true story," Benjamin said, "and that makes it even better." As the evening wore on and the children grew tired, the family began to disperse. Daniel and his family went to the guest house Benjamin had built a few years ago. Grace and her family drove back to their own ranch a few miles away. Thomas and his fiancée headed back to town. Finally, Benjamin and Amelia were alone again. They stood on the porch, looking out over the land they had built together. The moon was bright, casting silver light over everything. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. "This is everything I ever wanted," Amelia said. "More than I ever dared to dream." "Me too," Benjamin said. He pulled her close and they swayed gently, dancing to music only they could hear. "Thank you for taking a chance on me all those years ago." "Thank you for taking a chance on me," she countered. "I was the risky bet, remember? Best bet I ever made," he said. They went inside eventually, banking the fire and making sure everything was secure for the night. As they climbed into bed, the same bed Benjamin had built with his own hands before their wedding, Amelia snuggled close to him. "You think we will have many more years?" she asked. "I hope so," Benjamin said. "But however many we get, I will be grateful for every single one." "Good answer," she said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, two people who had found each other against all odds and built a love that would last a lifetime. The years passed gently after that. Benjamin and Amelia grew older, their steps slower but their love as strong as ever. They watched their grandchildren grow and eventually welcomed great-grandchildren. The ranch continued to prosper under Daniel's management, with Benjamin offering advice but letting his son take the lead. In the spring of 1902, Benjamin woke one morning to find Amelia watching him with tears in her eyes. "What is wrong?" he asked immediately, sitting up. "Nothing is wrong," she said. "I was just thinking about how lucky I am, how blessed. I have lived a life beyond anything I could have imagined, and it is all because of you. Not just because of me," he said. "Because of us. Because you were brave enough to keep going even when everything seemed hopeless." "We were brave together," she said. "Together," he agreed. They spent that day doing simple things. They walked around the ranch, hand in hand. They sat by the creek and watched the water flow. They had dinner with their family, surrounded by the people they loved most in the world. It was an ordinary day, but it was perfect. That night, as they lay in bed, Amelia spoke softly. "Benjamin, if I could go back to that day when I fell in the street, dusty and alone and afraid, and do it all over again, I would not change a single thing. Every moment of fear, every moment of doubt was worth it because it led me to you." "I feel the same way," he said. "You were the best thing that ever happened to me, Amelia Ashford. You still are." "I love you," she whispered. "Always and forever." "Always and forever," he echoed. They fell asleep like that, holding each other close, two souls who had found each other and never let go. And when the morning came, they woke up together, ready to face another day, another adventure, another moment of the beautiful life they had built together. Benjamin Ashford lived to be 83 years old. Amelia lived to be 81. They passed away within 6 months of each other, surrounded by the family they had created together. At their funerals, held in the same church where they had been married, people spoke of their love story, of how they had overcome fear and prejudice to build something beautiful. Their great-grandchildren told the story of how they had met, keeping alive the tale of the cowboy who had helped the bride everyone rejected, and the woman who had whispered that she would prove she was worth it. The ranch stayed in the family for generations, a testament to what two people could build when they loved each other and worked together. And on quiet nights, when the wind whispered through the prairie grass, some said you could still hear the echo of their love, a reminder that hope and courage can triumph over any obstacle. Their story became legend in Great Bend, Kansas, a reminder that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is help someone when everyone else has turned away, and that love, true love, can overcome anything. Benjamin and Amelia Ashford had proven that, not just in how their story began, but in how they lived every single day of their lives together. And in the end, that was the greatest proof of all.